All right, we're going to share the screen. Here we go. So I am redoing this because the first time it did not take. So welcome to Feelings and Frequency. I'm going to go ahead and set my intentions, even though I am doing this solo and I am recording this. You're still going to see this, and I want you to know that my intentions for this video is to share what I've come to understand and to know, and how it's benefited me in my life, and how I want it to benefit you as well. So I'm going to take a moment. The only oil I have with me is actually tea tree because I have a little bit of a cold sore, but no matter what you have, if you want to take a deep breath with me, release anything that might be in the corners of your mind because you're giving yourself this time to learn something new today. So honor your time. One more time, deep breath in. Glad you're here. So when I was a teacher, we had learning targets. So what to expect tonight, or today, rather, whenever you're watching this. My story, who I am, and what led to this knowledge, the power of awareness and feelings, energy, frequency, and the awakening. And of course, how do oils come into this, and future classes. So let's get started. Meet the teacher. I am Melissa Marie. I was a teacher in the traditional school setting for 11 years, and then I spent the last 5 years in the library. I will say that most of my life, I went through the motions of living, with distracting myself with anything that could help, with coping with day-to-day existence. And it just kind of got worse as the years went by. I dealt with some severe anxiety, and I really didn't have the emotional skills to handle that. The tools in my toolbox didn't have that. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. I'm just saying that that was my story. Um, I might say a lot, but that's okay. There it is again. So I started taking medication to account for that anxiety. The medication, honestly, it just made things worse. I had a lot of side effects with the medication. So I would overcompensate with food to make my stomach feel better for taking it because it would make me really nauseous. And then to deal with eating so much food, I would overcompensate with alcohol as well. So this was December of 2019. So right before the downer hit. And so the downer hit. I also had, I broke my foot. So this is the time that I gained all of the weight. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to explain that my 5'5" body, along with my very tiny bone structure, had 165 pounds of weight. And I broke my foot, so I couldn't work out. So I was at a really low point. And then we have the downer. And with the downer, I started using social media to kind of really distract myself at first, but then I started learning some really interesting things on TikTok. Yes, TikTok has, a lot of music and stuff, but then people were getting on there and posing some questions about everything that was happening. And I decided to start going down some of their rabbit holes and looking up and reading some of the things they were talking about. So it had me questioning a lot of how we saw life and viewed the world and saw, and maybe you already were there. That's great, but I wasn't. And then it led me to Telegram. I thought, you know, that once I went down this rabbit hole, everybody would start seeing it, and they didn't right away. But I felt like I was a little crazy, although I feel like now that's exactly what was meant to be, right? Like when you start realizing the truth about our world and our existence, they want you to feel crazy, the powers that be or that were, so that way you don't tell other people about it. So I love the you're entirely bonkers, but I'll tell you a secret, all the best people are. So in essence, the TikTok and Telegram and the people that were on there, they actually led me to The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. and Dr. Joe Dispenza, Becoming Supernatural, which is consciousness. So awareness, consciousness, frequency, and then essential oils as well. So it all starts, honestly, with awareness. Neville Goddard is an excellent author, and he was a speaker and an influencer, and so you can look him up on various platforms, but this is his book. And if you study any of the law of attraction or energy or any of those kinds of things, you're going to learn that where your attention goes is where energy flows. And that's really important, because if your energy is always attached to something negative, guess what? That's where your energy is going. But if your energy is attached to something positive, and some people are going to say, but Melissa, that's really hard because sometimes life presents you with negative things. Well, it's all going to come back to awareness, and it's all going to come back to you and how you process the world around you. And we'll talk more about that. So as I said, I've written down all of this stuff. I had it printed and typed out, but I thought that it had recorded. It did not. And I am in Florida, and so I wrote everything out so that I can read it. So So for you to use your thoughts and feelings and actions with your best intentions, you need to be aware of your actions, behaviors, patterns, and responses to things in your world. So we talked about being aware of those things so that way you can create something that you want to create, because this allows you to create your experience rather than it just, reacting to it. So really the power of awareness is the most important thing to get started on this journey, if you would like to change your thought patterns and your behavior and where your attention goes. Because if you've spent any time on this planet, it's very dense. And, unless you lived in a really excellent bubble, you've experienced some of the harshness of this planet. And that affects your awareness, and that affects your thought life. And so the first thing is to become aware of that thought life. If you want to fix a problem, you have to know exactly where it comes from. And so that's why it starts with awareness. And a way to do this, a really good tool to use, is a journal. This is an actual picture of my journal. Start recording your day. Be aware of your thoughts, your patterns, your behavior, and begin to question why you do, say, and think the things you do. Okay? Because it causes, and whether it causes a positive or a negative emotion or reaction. Let's talk about energy. So the energy we embody generates a frequency. And for me to explain frequency and movement, I'm bringing it back to the old school. I actually explained this to my father, and this is the way that I did. I said, when we talk about the stages of matter, we talk about solids, liquids, and gases. We talk about those little tiny atoms, the little tiny molecules that are rolling around in your ice cubes, right? And they're not moving very fast, right? Because ice cubes are a solid and they are dense, and they're not moving very fast. And then you get to water, right? You get to liquid, and your atoms are moving a little bit more because it's flowing and they're not as compact and they're not together. And then you get to gas, not the actual coffee, but the steam that's right here. And that's when they're moving quite quickly, right? So our atoms, we are also made up of atoms. And so those atoms are an energy. That is what I'm essentially saying, is depending on how dense your reality is, because some people talk about the third dimension, that's what Earth is. And then some people talk about the fifth dimension, and that's raising your vibration and your frequency. So if you think about it, maybe third dimension is like an ice cube, and fourth dimension is like liquid, and then fifth dimension is like the vapor, like the gas. So what's the frequency? Frequency, by definition, is the number of times something happens over a period of time. So higher frequency means that something is happening more frequently. It is measured in hertz. It's measured by the number of times something happens per second. Think about how fast your atoms are moving. So that's what it's measuring, right? So how fast those atoms are moving. Are they going to move fast in that dense? No. But are they going to move a little faster in the liquid? Yes. Are they going to move even faster with the gas? Yes, so that's what frequency is. That's how fast it's going, how many times it's done over a period of time, or how many times it moves. And then we have good old Albert. Everything is energy. So you're made up of energy. Your thoughts are energy, your behavior, your patterns, all of it's energy. So what energy do you choose to have in your life? So let's look at what he says though. Everything is energy. That's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. So when people say, I want to manifest this into my life, that's because our thoughts create our physical reality. How did this chair get here? Well, first it had to be a thought, right? And then there's aligned action that goes with it, but it starts here. And if you've got some yucky junk up there, what do you think you're going to be creating? Think about that, right? And I'm not saying that you're bad or wrong for having those. We've all had thoughts. We've all had behavior patterns or things that we've had in our life that doesn't, get us to where we want to go, to the reality that we want. So then this is why we're here, right? To learn more about this and to figure out how to change those patterns and how to change that energy into making it something that works for you. All right, so what does the awakening have to do with any of this stuff, right? So humanity has been spiritually sleeping for a long time. And what has happened is that your awareness is really equal to your consciousness. How much do you understand? How much are you aware of what's going on around you? Because there are people right now in this reality that are still sleeping in a spiritual sense. I was one of them. That's not a judgment. That's just a fact. You've got some people that are still sleeping. And that's why little by little, we're all in this together by waking each other up, by saying, hey, what if we looked at this way instead of another way, right? Let's not distract ourselves with our phones, with our devices. Let's not distract ourselves with what they want us to know about whatever it is, with commercials, with TV, with music that, if you listen to the lyrics, are just kind of making your brain flatline. That's what I'm talking about. Consciously, we've been on the lower frequency scale. We've been in that like ice cube mode for a while. But what's happening is that our planet is being liberated. And because it's being liberated, our consciousness level is rising. And as we rise in levels of consciousness, we realize that we've been sleeping for a long time because we haven't been aware. We haven't been aware. So the Great Awakening is waking up to all of these truths that are coming to us. And you might go through several stages of this. Like, I can't believe that this happened, right? And we're so angry about it. But then you'll get to the point where you're just like, we're all essentially one, right? And it's called collective consciousness and unity consciousness. And you'll learn about that if you look into that book, Becoming Supernatural with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And when we get to that, really it starts with, awakening and awareness and consciousness. But then you're going to have to get to a point of forgiveness as well, because that's where we all come together in that unity consciousness. So let's talk about consciousness, right? It's all about consciousness. This is Dr. Joe Dispenza, chapter 3. He says the quantum field is an invisible field of energy that exists between time and space. So in that quantum is where, we don't really see the atoms like in the physical sense, right? So, but in the quantum sense, those atoms are going crazy. And that is kind of where they exist. I think that's the best way of saying that. And if I'm wrong, please let me know. It's all good. It can also be described as the field of intelligence or consciousness. This is the field that governs all laws of nature. All laws of nature. This is by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'm a librarian, so I've got to make sure that I put my quotes and who, actually said it. So here is the journey to oneness. So we're talking more about consciousness here. The lower emotional energies keep our frequency low, asleep, like Sleeping Beauty, right? And essentially traps our consciousness, causing us to sleep energetically, like those ice cubes. In this density, we make decisions and we keep recycling our thought patterns that are based in fear, and we keep creating an existence that is not aligned with who we are. And I say that because if you're listening to this, you know that something's just not right. Or maybe you've already known that. Maybe you just want to learn a little bit more. That's cool too. We're all here together. But when we were created out of love, do you think that we were really created to, you know, think about all of the yucky stuff? I don't really want you to go there, but all that stuff that they put on TV and all of the turmoil in this planet, that's not what we were created to do or be. We're created to be love, right? We've got so much more to explore in this lifetime other than what they wanted us to do or see or feel. So when we're creating that, perpetuating that yuck, right? It doesn't feel good, right? I don't know if, and about you, but that's why I was taking anxiety medication. And really, it creates that resistance of who we were created to be and who we really are. And that's what causes all of that strife and that anxiety and that stress and that emotional overload. And, you know, whether you are creating something that's good or bad, waking up and realizing that you are part of that creation is a big deal. So to transcend this, we must become conscious of our choices and emotions and what we give our attention to. Your attention is your currency. It's true. Your attention is the most important thing that you can give anything or anyone, ever. Becoming aware of this allows us to release. So when we become aware, it allows us to release those negative thoughts, behavior patterns, you know, and the things that we do that don't amount to anything, that there's no fruit from them, right? Like, I know that sometimes we need to lay on the couch. Like, that might be important because our body needs rest. But if we are laying on our couch every single day and not doing anything, we're not getting out and seeing nature and we're not moving our bodies, that's not a productive behavior, right? Okay. Let's go back to what I was saying before. All right. So becoming aware of this allows us to release negative thoughts, behaviors, patterns, allowing us to become creators of the quantum field and no longer living in the lack mentality, but instead in abundance, because that's what we have. Our energy is infinitely abundant. Don't get me started on currency and their fiat system, because that's another whole rabbit hole. So when we let go, right, and we just dive ourselves into some radical self-love, and we're able to even look at the things that we do, right, our behaviors or patterns or thoughts, and we're just like, you know what? That's an interesting thought. That's an interesting behavior. You know what? I'm going to love the living crap out of you. I just am. I'm just going to love you. And we're going to work through this because that is not me. That thought is not me. And I'm not going to act on it, whatever it is. I'm going to allow it to release. And there are ways to do that. That's another whole podcast or video, but it's true. And there are resources out there other than me that you can find that will help you with releasing negative thought patterns. So we are going to fully embody our true selves, which is love. We are love, which when we do that, when we release all of those things, those negative thoughts, those patterns, those behaviors, and we just keep up leveling in our consciousness, right? That's going to accelerate everybody around us. That's what's so cool, is me loving me and releasing my thought patterns in moving up in frequency, because I can do that because I'm starting to move a little faster, because I'm not encumbered by those heavy weighted emotions. I'm affecting everybody around us because my vibration is sending out a certain energetic code to everybody around me. Now, I can't say that I can pinpoint this right now, but what I've heard or maybe seen, experienced in some way, shape, or form, and I find it very intriguing, is that if somebody is vibrating at the level of love, and we'll get there, at 500 megahertz, right, in frequency, that they can actually affect 1 million people on Earth. So if we all did it, right, how many people could we affect just by loving ourselves? So radical self-love, importante, at least in my opinion. All right, so let's go on. to frequency, keep talking about these numbers. Here is the map of consciousness. All right. So what's really cool is I have joined a really awesome group on Telegram, and I'm not going to mention them here, but I will, if you reach out to me, I will give you that information. But I decided to do a thoughts and feelings, or feelings and frequency class. And the Sunday before I did it, I received this paperwork from the group, and they've already said, please share our materials, because this is not about just one person getting the glory or the honor. This is about everybody. This is about unity consciousness. And to be able to do this, I think my friends are coming back. Okay. And to be able to do this, you have to be aware. Let me open this door. Of the levels of frequency and your emotions that are tied to that as well. So I am going without my notes, and you hear the music, or then not the music, the waves in the background. It is all good. So here we are. And if you look, you've got, when we start getting into the yellow, then the green, then the blue, then the purple, makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it? Your frequency, and then your associated emotional state and your view of life. So step 1 of this would be awareness. Step 2 is, in my opinion, the feelings kit from Young Living. Now, there are other modalities to use, but when I saw the map of the Great Awakening, I saw that Young Living and other essential oils were a modality of healing. And that made me really think, but essentially I got this kit not because I wanted to do the feelings, but because I wanted to make my good vibration. When I first started Young Living, I decided to get Rose, Inner Child, and Valor because I was going to make and create something that smelled really good. And I loved Rose because it has a 320 megahertz, and it puts you in that elevated state, and I'll show you why. So Rose has 320. So if you're putting on Rose essential oil, you're literally going between willingness and acceptance just with one. And then you're putting on Inner Child, which is connecting you back to who you were created to be. And then you've got Valor, which is bravery and courage. So bravery and courage to be your true self, and then the frequency or perspective to understand that and become aware of that. But instead, I started doing I heard from a friend that there was a way of using these oils on a daily basis that actually puts you in a good state, right? That allowed you to release some of those things we were talking about, those negative thought patterns or behaviors and emotions that we don't know how to deal with, that might be stuck in our body. Because all of our emotions have a frequency, and if we don't deal with them or process them, they stay in our body, and that's what creates dis-ease. So if you notice in this picture, I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot healthier. I have really gotten in touch with myself. Now, I feel like, living your life to the best that you can and embodying love requires you to be present daily. This isn't just, I'm done now, I've taken this course and I have my master's in being Melissa. This is a daily effort. This is daily showing up for myself so that I can show up for other people, and learning as much as I possibly can to, again, share that with as many people can listen, or the people that are energetically aligned with me. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to stay unconscious. I would like to become aware. I would like to become conscious. And then I would like to transmute or change my state of being to something that is going to not just benefit me, but benefit everybody in this awakening process, to this ascension from our atoms being in that tight little like ice cube state to it being in that flow state. So let's connect. Let me know how I can help you. I have, if you have my business card, you'll see on the back of it has a QR code that goes over to my Linktree. I've got a list of things. YouTube will be there as well. And this is my personal website. And if you click on my personal website, it will get there soon. You're welcome. You can sing to you. It's great. All right. So on here are my featured bundles, and you'll look gratitudes on there. I love gratitude. And then we've got the feelings kit. And along with the feelings kit, I did put the highest potential because that's also really helpful. If you're not ready for feelings and you want to learn more about that before, just know that anything that I am using, I am posting about because I feel like if somebody finds something that works for them, and it might not work for everybody, and that's completely fine, but when people are happy and embodying love and really connected to who they were created to be, people are very curious about what they use and how they go about their day to get to where that is, right? To their state of being. And one of mine that I use on a daily is the Ningxia Red, along with the Sulfurzyme and the Lime. But there are all kinds of other things on here too. And again, if you need any help, just let me know because I can actually make you your own personal bundle as well. Part two, I will actually be working on that today. My hope is to get that out between leaving Florida and landing in Arizona. It's probably not going to be something that I ask other people to join me for a live, but it's something that I might upload later. All right, well, I hope you have enjoyed this and you've learned something, and thank you for taking your time and your energy and your attention and spending some of that time with me. Until next time. And there I am, still recording.